Yeah, Texas storm. You're not familiar with that one?
Yeah, I've heard something's been going on.
Yeah, like
not looked into it.
millions and millions of homes have been left without power in
Oh my god!
in minus in minus temperatures.
God, that is.
What's interesting about it is the power grid is separate from the rest of the United States. It's Texas's private power grid.
And Scotland want their independence. I'm guessing they wanted that sort of independence somewhere, huh?
Yeah, it's been independent for quite some time, but most of the infrastructure seemingly hasn't been upgraded since 2000. Which I think is the case across a lot of the United States, and probably much worse in a lot of other places. Here included, and yeah, I think it's. There's a lot of talk. I mean, I think they used it as an opportunity to sort of say, and it would be even worse with a Green New Deal, and it would be worse if there's not, if you're relying on wind and solar and that sort of stuff. Whereas actually, I think it suggests to me that we should be focusing more on how do you protect your own home, because all of those Tesla roof tiles and stuff, they're quite expensive, but if that price starts to come down, then wouldn't you want to be your own little power grid, because you can store all of that energy in a Powerwall? And maybe we should be thinking a bit more about how do we distribute the collection or the creation of that energy and create a distributed power grid rather than a relying on singular power stations. It would be much better if we follow that sort of distributed computing model and collect all of our power from a wide source rather than a concentrated supercomputer or super power generator.
Kind of like spreading your assets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spreading across your assets, like sort of thing.
Well, it just seems to make a bit more sense to me, really. It's just follow that distributed computing model.
Yeah.
So one more thing to add on the Texas storm is that actually some houses have stayed on. So some houses have still got access to electricity and others don't. However, what it has allowed the energy companies to do, or what the energy companies just have done, is massively increase the price. So there is a headline that one man whose lights had stayed on has cost him $16,752 just because he left his lights on.
My God. What? So they just hiked, is that the word? Hiked the price of the electricity.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
man, that's disappointing, isn't it? That's horrible.
Yeah, like
supply and demand, right?
Absolutely. But I don't think, I don't think as a consumer you would get that much initial feedback that you would know that it was going to be such an increased price hike. I think you just get a nice surprise that your bill has gone up by that much.
Cool. What's next?
Well, next on the list, a slightly different take. Did you see there's a man from Google, and his name is John Muller. And he has said in relation to search, this is an SEO topic, that the total number of backlinks does not matter. I know you're a man who's interested in search, Sam. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was the amount of links. I wasn't surprised by that at all. There's this thing called domain authority, and it's what we all strive for, is websites with domain authority linking back to you.
Well, exactly. So that's the thing. Basically, what he's saying is if a reputable news source, for example, the BBC, were to write an article about, say, that tech show, then the power of the BBC talking about us would help push us up the ranking.
So what's the news here? Because this is something that people have known about for a long time. What is the news here?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I think there's been a lot of conversation, really, or debate about SEO and what makes good SEO and what makes bad SEO. I think it's just nice to hear someone from Google actually come out and confirm that.
Well, the algorithm is so under wraps, and we're always trying to, second guess it and try and figure it out, little workarounds. Yeah, I guess that's what is interesting about it. But yeah, the domain authority thing is quite a well-known thing, and I just released a video about domain authority and how you can prevent domain authority with on your links.
Shameless plug.
With my YouTube series, Webflow and Code.
It's a good series, actually. I subscribe. It's funny you should mention that. I've started to play around with a bit of Webflow. I'm influenced by you, Sam. For those who are watching this, Sam has terrible internet connection, which is why in the past we have spoken about Sam using Starlink. Actually, that that actually popped up to me just then and said that my connection was unstable. And actually, I've got a node here because I've got a meshed system and it's flashing red, which is telling me that I've just been sort of rebooted. You can't see the red on the light. So I'm not sure if I'm still connected. Can you see me?
Yes, I'm looking at your nodes right now.
My nodes, right? Well, my
on repeat. I got to see it again.
Oh, good. So next up in the news, Mars. Actually, have you seen that there's some fake Mars pictures going around?
I hope not. I hope I haven't seen the fake pictures.
Yeah, if you've been watching pictures of the new, I think it's called Perseverance. Yeah, there you go. It's a big word for a dyslexic like me. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of it rumbling around the Mars service with the tracks streaming off behind it. Have you seen that? It's gone viral on Twitter. I think we've had somewhere in the region of about 20 million views in about 2 days, actually. So it went out on February the 20th, and we're recording this now on the 22nd. But actually, that's fake. It's from the Curiosity rover, which was from 2012. So I think someone has published something and said, oh, look, here is some new stuff, some new footage of the red planet from the Perseverance rover. And actually, it's not, I'm afraid. You missed that the first time around. It was from 2012. The Perseverance rover is currently in helicopter mode and landed in a crater and is taking off and landing in various different parts of said crater. It's not actually started moving yet.
That's a shame, isn't it? I wonder if they did that intentionally or whether they just had a numpty. The person who shared the image.
You may say that. I couldn't possibly comment. And I don't know if you've have you seen that? Is that something you've seen?
I mean, no, not those images, not the fake or real images. I mean, they all look the same, don't they? When you see an image of Mars and a rover of sorts. But
well, I must say, I got tricked last week because I saw some pictures that I thought were new, and they were from 2 years ago. So yeah, very easy to be fooled when it's in the news and you see a picture of a red desert-like surface.
Yeah. Wow, we said last week we're easily fooled by images. We just assume what we read on the internet is the truth.
That is true. So, it is a problem of our day and age. In fact, actually, I was just talking with my mother and her fiance just the other day, and they were playing with the fact that the internet is listening to them, and they were searching for a certain type of car, Polestar cars, I believe, and then watching it as it appeared on my mother's Facebook. And they're going, it must be listening to us. How on earth is this working? So obviously, I had to do a little bit of explaining that all of your devices are listening to you. And if you have Siri on your phone, or you have the Google Assistant on your phone, then it will be listening. It will be processing your data. If you have Facebook on your phone, you're going to have similar stuff, which means that families start to get ads for related content across multiple devices. It happened to me a few years back with canal boats. We'd mentioned a friend who lived on a canal boat, and immediately I was getting offers on eBay for canal boats that were for sale. And this similar thing happened for them with Polestar cars. But this is a general problem again with the fake news side of things. We're very susceptible to advertising, and the advertising is becoming probably a little more subtle than it used to be, because you can just start to feed vulnerable groups certain levels of information, and obviously what does that lead to? That leads to a populist uprising across the West. Anyway.
Mars, perseverance.
Oh yeah, bringing it back. Yes. No, I've not got anything more to say on Mars other than well done, guys. It was pretty incredible that they've landed the first helicopter on Mars. Oh, it is also another thing about Mars. It is also the first instance of Linux running on Mars. I don't know if you knew that.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
Snapdragon 850 or something.
Yeah, the first Snapdragon on Mars. So it's now running on technology that we had in Android mobile phones from about 5 years ago. So that's good.
Wow.
More power.
What can you do?
Well, yeah, more power than the pocket calculator that took us to the moon. So
exactly. So here's the thing. I actually thought that I guess they just don't want to go. I don't know what. I actually don't know why they didn't or didn't use certain chipset, but I'm guessing they just don't want to ruffle the feathers too much. They just want to kind of go with something that's tried and tested and has been patched or whatever. So I'm not really sure why they. Yeah, why wouldn't you use a newer chip?
I mean, that's a really interesting point. I mean, I'm hoping that we're going to have him on the show at some point. But I worked with a software engineer in the past. Well, I say software engineer. He's now I think he's a director at a big firm, and he's certainly been a director in Amazon in the past. But he had previously been a software engineer for NASA, and he's the only person I've ever known who's had code in space, which should probably said code in space. But the oh god, that's going to be on live now. Anyway, the interesting thing about that was he said to me that they had to make sure that the code was working in about 3 or 4 different ways. So there was always a fallback, because once it's in space, it ain't coming back. And so, you're less likely to go with a more cutting edge piece of technology when you're shipping something into the world, into the universe, where you're never actually going to be able to retrieve that or patch it or send an over the air update. Because otherwise it's going to, literally crash into the surface of a foreign planet. So yeah, understandable really that they went with the old Snapdragon, because it's tried and tested.
Yeah. Well, this code's probably 3 times more likely to run than my code. My code is quite possibly horrendous. I've been battling with Python today. Hey, do you know why why this is such a big deal?
Go on.
Perseverance and helicopters and stuff.
Go on.
Well, the helicopter, the atmosphere is like super thin, so the helicopter has to work like 100 times. The propellers are like probably spinning at a ridiculous rate, so that's why the helicopter is a big deal out there. First time we've done that. But the Perseverance rover is actually looking for life. It's landed in one of the oldest craters where you can see evidence of streams and running water off of this lake. And so they're looking for either fossilized or, I guess I would say dead, but they're not. They probably won't find life, living organisms out there. But they're looking for evidence. Yeah, because this is the oldest crater, and there's water in this crater, and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really it's really exciting, and who knows? Maybe we'll see human life on Mars at some point. I mean, another thing from the tech perspective is there is such a delay in the signal that all of this is automated, all of the landings, and I think that's incredibly impressive. This is computer controlled landings as well that are occurring here. You cannot control that, so it has to be pretty precise to make sure. Well, we've crashed many things into the surface of planets, I think, haven't we? So
yeah.
Right. Should we move on?
And I was going to say, and comets as well. We crashed that Phoebe or whatever it's called. I don't know. We crashed a lot of shit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we did crash onto the surface of a comet, didn't we? Yeah, absolutely. Here's another piece. So we mentioned a couple of weeks back, actually, the first episode we discussed about Australia and news being shut down, and obviously now Facebook has actually shut down news access in Australia, but that seems to have led to concerns about the spread of disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually covered on the BBC as well. Unintended consequences that actually it's leading to a rise of disinformation, and there may be more groups, more misinformation being shared, because obviously it doesn't necessarily have to come from well, that's stuff that hasn't necessarily come from a reliable source. Which
From what platform? Because it's not come from, hasn't come from Facebook, right? Because they were offline for a bit, right?
Well, essentially what they've done is they've shut down a whole load of sites, but they've also shut down like fact checking sites as well. There's a thing here as well about data analysis from a company called CrowdTangle, or a tool called CrowdTangle. Have you had a look at that?
No idea.
Well, let's have a look at that now, shall we? So CrowdTangle is a tool from Facebook, funnily enough, to help follow, analyze, and report on what's happening across social media. And so it gives you a view of all of the news that you can see at the moment, the latest products, the latest resources. Probably won't have us on it because we're probably quite far down the pecking order here, I guess. But it gives you a whole view of the data that is going on across the whole of Facebook and various other areas. So, including it's available across Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit. This is the type of news sources that are going on, comparing performance of public accounts over time, and tracks referrals from larger trends. So this is like, proper deep data and being able to give you full real-time dashboards on content. So something we might look into in more detail, actually. But yeah,
that's insane, isn't it? That's how many years in the making must that have been?
That's a huge amount of data, absolutely colossal amount of data. And I think this just goes to show you as well, in terms of like the adverts that are getting spread across the internet. Sometimes you don't necessarily know that you're being spread disinformation, because what is portrayed as being the truth, the truth being out there and all of that is ultimately someone is getting paid for you clicking on their page. So something that may appear as the truth may be masquerading under the fact that they're actually getting paid for an ad click. So the more sensationalist it is, the less likely it is to actually be true, which again that leads to the spread of disinformation, which Facebook seems to be compounding now by hiding the genuine information. So it is it is tricky of what is going on over there. I think really difficult to know what's actually gonna happen with it. But the thing that we talk about within transformation, digital transformations and things like that all of the time, is that to create a change, to create a wind of change, you need to have a certain level of dissatisfaction to change and trigger the status quo. And so hopefully this is one of those triggers. People are getting wound up by news, they're getting annoyed by fake news, and if they're now going to start blocking the news on various sites, then that will trigger a change. It just depends on what sort of change that is that triggers, and hopefully it's a positive one.
Who knows? I mean, ultimately it's going to take more work to find the correct news, which is a complete opposite direction than what the sort of, I was going to say youth of today, what we're growing accustomed to as, we want information and we want it fast, but actually it's probably going to take a bit more digging to find the right information.
Well, I think the youth of today do a great job of it. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of well-researched points of view on TikTok, for example. They're very good at putting together. You know how much of a fan of TikTok I am.
Yeah. Well, more to it. I mean, I don't know. I guess
How was that for you, Sam? Was that profound?
what TikTok?
My
I'm not
thoughts on
so
what it
sure
could
about
lead
that.
to.
I don't know. I've got nothing to say on the matter. Let's just see. Let's just see.
Okay, so you did you did a piece. Your latest video, or one of your latest videos, was about security. Do you want to talk some security?
What and specifically?
Yeah, yeah. There's a
What
news story
specifically?
about security I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, okay.
You familiar with Tor?
Yes.
And
Onion.
Onion browser. Yes. So there was a browser leak which was actually exposing. Well, I think it's been described as a subject of a ransomware attack, but exposing people's addresses. So people are using Tor to browse anonymously, let's say. That can be regular sites, it can be dark sites, it can be it can actually be to just evade detection, which is necessary in some countries around the world, I guess, to be able to actually get a secure connection and a line out. But actually, due to an ad blocker, it has been exposing DNS information. So actually, you're not as hidden as was intended.
Wow.
I believe it's
You
now been
couldn't get
patched.
more wrong. You could not get more wrong than that, could you?
No,
Like,
I think if you were going to describe it as a particular type of fail, it would be an epic fail.
it would be yeah. Like if you're building a plugin, it was for Brave browser, right?
Yes, it is. It's Brave browser.
Mm.
I actually don't know what Brave runs on.
I thought it was a Chromium browser, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That's always sketched me out. Brave. They were giving away free crypto if you use their browser, or you could collect their own cryptocurrency or something like that.
Oh, sounds suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up downloading it because I thought there would be a bit of a.
Did you get your crypto?
I didn't get my crypto. I did not get
You
my
didn't get
crypto.
your crypto.
No,
That's
I didn't.
disappointing. So Ford vowing to go all electric in Europe by 2030.
Oh yeah, that was last week. That's probably why I'm not seeing it.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
it
think
was
that
5 days ago. So
Here's
that
the
is old
th-
news.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Ford.
Okay.
And I was gonna mention it when we were talking about it was some subject on imagine if we went this route. I think it was something to do with Tesla. We were talking about wireless electricity or something a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was with Ford. I'm led to believe, I'm not going to say I know this for a fact. I'm led to believe that actually at the beginning of Ford's kind of journey, they were forced with the choice between using water as a fuel or petrol and gas as a fuel. And they opted for petrol to be used as a fuel.
Mm.
And I think it's obviously more efficient or whatever. But imagine if they went with the water route. Imagine if they went the water route where we could be right now. Yes, it would have been rubbish in the beginning. I mean, gosh, I don't know how fast cars were traveling at that
Steam
time,
powered
but
car. No, I think
either steam or
yeah.
whatever.
Well, I think the combustion was probably similar in terms of the power output that you could get at the time because the speeds were much slower, and obviously, I think the problem with the water thing is that's kind of how a train works, isn't it, with the boiler? But obviously, you need a fire to power the boiler. Because that's how you boil the water to get the steam to generate your car. That's so I think frankly the amount of coal you would have had to carry around with you, and you'd have to have a driver. I think that's probably what it was, because I don't think there was. I don't know how else they were gonna generate the steam, or how maybe there is another water power that I'm missing out on for automobiles.
That makes sense. I hadn't really thought about that, but it does beg the question: like, had they been forced with the innovation, like we hear about China being insistent on the actual porcelain as their kind of product of choice over glass, and how much apparently that set them back in terms of their evolutionary kind of, I guess, status or I'm not quite sure of the words, but basically, the fact that they didn't choose glass massively held them back with their own technological innovations. In the
That's
same way,
interesting. I don't think I know much about that.
yeah. So yeah, they were so insistent on the kind of porcelain, and I was going to call it China. I don't know. Is China porcelain China? Is it the same thing? I'm not too sure.
I think we'll have to do a bit of research on that, because obviously you talk about
Yeah.
you have like bone China, I guess.
Hmm.
Presumably there is some connection between the
Mm.
country and the commodity it was outputting. I really don't know the origin to that.
Mm. Well, either way, it's quite well known that they had used glass, they would have helped themselves a lot more in terms of, like I say, their evolutionary status. But I do wonder if we had persisted on, if the limitations were placed upon Ford, where they were like, right, let's go steam, and we're all in on steam, where they would be, or where we would be right now.
It's interesting you mention it, because actually, the Ferdinand Porsche worked for the Nazis in World War II, and he was one of the men who was responsible for developing tanks. And the one of the original designs for a tank, which I don't believe was ever built. If I had a bit more time, I'll go and dig out the information for you. But it contained 2 electric motors that powered the rear of the tank, whereas it used a combustion engine for the front of the tank. And actually, if you look at the layout, the schematic of the floor plan and the way that the electric motors and the combustion engine was laid out, it actually looks quite a lot like a Prius. Essentially, it was a hybrid tank that was designed, and this was in the later stages of the war, where the tanks were getting bigger and bigger and fancier, and essentially it's a Porsche designed tank, again with electric motors. And this is 1944, 43, 44, 45, that sort of region. Because generally we always knew that electric was more efficient, because the acceleration you get from an electric motor is phenomenal, and so much more efficient than a combustion engine. And there just hasn't necessarily been that technology. But realistically, when it comes down to it, it's the money, right? There's so much money in oil that's why it's taken this long to move on to the electric energy, because obviously battery power is a big problem for electric vehicles, but we know that they're more efficient. We've known that since Porsche was designing tanks in the 40s. So yeah, I think that the things that hold us back really are what is the what's keeping the rich, frankly, ultimately.
Yeah. Have you been in an electric car then? Have you ridden one?
I have. I've had the pleasure of driving a Tesla. So I have an old late 1980s Porsche 944, which is it's a poor man's Porsche from the 1980s. But I love it because it's got pop-up lights. And I was fortunate enough to get out of said Porsche, which has fantastic acceleration, and into a Tesla. Oh my God, is that thing fast? And it was a Model X Tesla, and it's terrifying. Actually, it's so fast, it's terrifying, because the power of the acceleration is
torque.
incredible. Yeah, it is the torque. It's just absolutely astonishing. It's so quick, and it's for it to someone who was a racing driver like myself, for me to get out of a Porsche and into a Tesla and be scared by it, that just goes to, and that wasn't even with ludicrous mode. That was just that's just a regular Tesla. It just goes to show you the power of those electric motors.
Yeah. I would love an electric motorbike. I think that would be even crazier, but you can buy them.
Wheelies everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you can modify them and hook them up, because obviously they've got limiters, and you can, it's not just, I mean, you probably do this on a car, but it's a lot more manual. But you can tweak various aspects. You can almost hack into these electric bikes from like China and stuff, and just like tweak it to your heart's content. Like, do you want more? I don't know what the options are, but it's I just remember watching a video on it, and some guy bought one and hooked it up to his computer and was just saying, oh, a little bit more this, a little bit more that. And it's just incredible. And then obviously going on it,
Well, I mean, I'd very much like to
um,
I'd very much like to
you know,
build an electric car. I think it would be great because there's so
yeah.
much. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who've taken the kit out of a Tesla and stuck it into an electric car, and you can make a monstrous machine from doing that. It'd be fantastic. Again, it's a time thing.
Yeah, I watched a series where a guy took an old 60s VW Beetle and put, Tesla batteries in it, but he made that electric. And that took him about, probably about 3 months, not working on it every single day, but took a long time. I think the series was about 40 days or something like that. But there's suggestions throughout the series that actually he's been working on it months, just not every single day, But it's an interesting series, and it looks like quite a lot of fun, a lot of satisfaction in being able to build that.
Yeah, it's cool. I have to check it out. Other pieces of news: crypto. Bitcoin touched $50,000 this week. That's quite
Wild.
big. And also, it has dropped a fair bit since. I think it's just these things, when you have a milestone like that, they tend to touch and then drop back down. So I think it's down to about $45,000 at the moment. But also there was an announcement that Shopify is going to start accepting crypto, which was, I think, on Friday. So that is potentially a big shift, a big change. You can expect the bull market to continue, I think, as a result of that announcement, because you would expect that there's going to be some significant growth as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, Spotify is the e-commerce platform, really. It's de facto, really.
Shopify.
And what did I say?
Spotify.
See, all these if-Is. I hate that name. I hate that type of name for an app.
It's because we're also available on Spotify.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Where else are we available?
TuneIn. We're on TuneIn.
Stitcher. Deezer.
All of them. Pocket
Cast. All of them. Just search That Tech Show on any of your favorite podcasting platforms.
YouTube. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, even YouTube. But Shopify, yeah. I mean, that's the de facto e-commerce platform for a lot of people. And, the more accessible, because really crypto is still a bit of a...
it's niche.
It's niche, and it's comparable to shares and getting in all that sort of thing, the volatility, but you introduce the regular folk, the non-technical folk, to maybe they even they make the trade for you, so you can just accept crypto but withdraw USD or GBP. Great, GBP.
Get there in the end.
Dyslexia, man. It'll be interesting. It'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know whether it will come, whether the expectation is that it will come down for a bit. Because of course, we've spoken about this in the past. 2018, it went up to sort of 20,000, dropped right back down to it was 7,000 at the beginning of 2020. It was 5,000 to 7,000 at the beginning of 2020. Obviously came right back down. Whether it's going to drop, I think it might drop. This is just me speculating now. I have no idea. I think it might drop, but I don't think we'll see it drop below 20,000 now.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to go. I would be surprised if it dropped lower than where it is right now, frankly, because there was also the announcement, which I think was about 10 days ago now. So it's mid Feb. The MasterCard is planning to receive payments, allow merchants to receive payments in crypto this year. So again, if you've got MasterCard getting behind it, you've got Shopify getting behind it. We've obviously talked about Elon Musk and his ventures in crypto land. Those things really, it's only going to drive it in one direction, really. If you're wanting to get involved and invest, I think now's probably the time.
Yeah. Cool. Should we wrap it up there?
I think we probably can. I don't think we've got much more exciting news to say, other than our congratulations to the Bumble CEO, who has done a great job of IPOing that company and becoming a billionaire.
That's crazy, isn't it? How old is she?
I'm not sure, actually. Let's have a look.
I think she's pretty young.
I think she's the youngest female billionaire now. Whitney Wolf Herd, or self-made billionaire. Bloody hell, she's 31. Fancy that, eh? Fancy being 31.
Bumble is the platform where the girls have to make the move, right? Is that what that is?
I actually don't know. I mean, my wife and I got together almost. I think this is our 15th year together. So I predate dating apps. So I've never used a dating app. So I really have no concept of it. But I think the fact that, you can start a company in 2014, have it become the biggest in its genre in 6 years. I mean, that's just incredible, isn't it?
Well done. Well bloody done. Let's get her on the show. Let's pop her on the show. I'll give her a text.
We message her on Bumble. I don't know how. Oh, yeah.
I can't. It's female first. The female's got to make the move.
Oh, really? Okay. So that's pretty cool then, actually, isn't it? To make it a female-led, female-focused dating app is what Wikipedia says. So if it's on Wikipedia, it must be true.
You just watched a clip from That Tech Show, a podcast hosted by myself and Chris Adams. We talk all things tech with those that make it happen every single week. You can check us out online at thattech.show or listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or Stitcher, or just about any other podcasting platform you can shake a stick at. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.